Hello, this is Demon Phoenix with episode 1 of my Break HP Limit stat maxing guide for Final Fantasy X. Now this is different than the regular stat maxing guide. You can beat everything in the game with 9,999 HP and your other stats maxed with the correct gear and tactics, including all of the Dark Aeons and Penance. But Break HP Limit lets your HP go over 9,999 HP, but it takes a long time to get the correct gear and especially to get the worthwhile stats. You have to remodel the grid. As you can see here, you wipe out massive swaths of the grid and take out everything that is not a +4 stat node or a +300 HP, which doesn't exist, so you have to replace all of the HP nodes on the grid. And basically what it lets you do is get up to 99,999 HP. Now, because this is a sort of niche and completionist option, it's not necessary, and my previous stat maxing guide covers how you would just beat the game with the normal stats and how to effectively max stats usually. So what I'm doing is I'm assuming that if you're following this guide, you're wanting the 99,999 HP. You really don't want to use Break HP Limit unless you have that maximum amount of HP. Because otherwise you can end up with, if you just do it without clearing out the things from the grid and you just use the spare nodes that are there, you can end up with like anywhere between 40 and 67,000 HP, but that's not even enough to survive things like Dark Anima's Oblivion. So if you want to do this, I would recommend that you follow this guide and do it properly. Now if you do things in a very specific order and follow the guide, it will take you through how we remodel the grid without having to go over everything a bunch of times. The conventional wisdom is to go around the grid, max everything, and then get the spheres that you need to raise your strength and defense and agility and all of that, and then go over the grid again, wiping everything out. Now this isn't necessary. What you can actually do is get these spheres first and then remodel the grid as you go, as long as you don't leave yourself weakened by removing the nodes on the grid before you have the ability to add +4 nodes in their stead. So it's very important that you understand what the goal is here. The goal is to get 99,999 HP and the maximum perfect stats in the game. Now the actual effective perfect stats are 99,999 HP, 999 magic points, 230 luck, and that's a very large figure and very important as well, 0 accuracy, and then enough evasion to make your luck plus evasion equal 290, so that's 60 evasion, and then agility over 170, 255 strength, magic defense, and defense. Now in order to do that, you have to do things in a very specific order, like I say, and there are some key things that we need to go over first. Now you'll be removing every +1, +2, +3 node, everything that isn't a +4 node basically, and we'll be removing all of the 200 HP spheres on the grid, the +200 HP spheres, and replacing them with +300. You need to be using the standard sphere grid, so I would definitely not recommend using Break HP Limit. If you're using the expert sphere grid, it's only really worth doing on the standard sphere grid, and there are a couple of key things to go over. First of all, I would definitely say get Tidus and Wakka's Celestials. It takes a lot of time. The Chocobo catcher minigame and Blitzball are tedious, but it's very necessary to have those Celestials. They will save you a lot of time. So you can see here that basically that's what we want to do here. Now this isn't the most efficient process, but I am going to assume that if you're doing this anyway, you want things completely completionist, so you want the 7 characters doing as well, because like I say, this is not the best way of going about things, but if you want the maximum stats, this guide will show you how to get everything maxed out. It's very, very important. There are 2 key things that we have to understand about clearing the sphere grid. When you clear those nodes off the grid, it makes your characters weaker, so you need to be sure that you have enough strength and agility particularly to be able to build up these spheres again afterwards and beat the monster arena creations for the +4 spheres that you want. Now the other thing that you need to be aware of is that maxing magic is extremely tedious, and if you wipe out the stats that Yuna has already used, if you take out those nodes that Yuna has already used, it will lower her stats, and so it will correspondingly lower the Aeon stats, and you want to max magic with Anima, and so you want Anima's stats to remain as high as possible. So one of the key principles is that we want to raise as much of the stats as possible before we wipe out any of the nodes that Yuna has activated, and you want to have farmed the magic spheres so that we'll be able to get maximum magic before we start clearing out any of the spheres, particularly the +1, 2 and 3 magic spheres that Yuna has activated. So that's quite a complicated notion, so you just have to have that clear in your head, and that's why there's a very specific order that we're going to do things in. So what we need to do is we need to get strength and agility before we start clearing anything out, and what you need to do is have a high enough base stat so that you can take on One Eye and Juggernaut for the triple AP weapons and strength spheres respectively before you start any of this process. Now hopefully you should already be strong enough to do this. If you've got the 3 strength spheres from dodging 50 lightning strikes, I would get no encounter armor and definitely do that. And what we're going to do is, you can see here, these are my 3 main characters, Riku, Tidus and Wakka, and the 4 characters we're mainly going to be using early on are Riku, Tidus, Wakka and Yuna. And Riku's at 155 strength, Tidus at 140, Wakka at 129. So if you have less strength than this, then I would recommend that you go and get the strength spheres from returning to Yojimbo's faith. After you've got Yojimbo, you get 1 there, you get 3 from doing the lightning dodging, and activate those strength spheres. And if you need to, you can refer to my normal stat maxing guide for how you beat One Eye, and then you can use the Don Tonbru trick to activate as many of the +4 strength nodes in Wakka's, Tidus's and Oren's grid as possible, and get to this sort of level where you have 130 to 150 strength with Wakka, Tidus and Riku. Now once you get to this level of strength, you'll be able to start off the stat maxing process by destroying One Eye for the triple AP weapons and by beating Juggernaut for the strength spheres, and then you can get the strength spheres to start maxing strength at the start of the process. Now this will save us a lot of time, because what we'll do is you go over a specific portion of the grid and add in these strength spheres, and that will mean that you are strong enough to beat Juggernaut more and more easily, and then to beat Fenrir for your agility spheres. And once you have strength and agility, everything else is sorted. Now you see there that once you've caught 5 of every monster, you get 99 dark matters, and so what you want to have for Tidus, Riku and Wakka is you want them all to have auto haste on a 4-slot armor, and then one of them to have ribbon as well. Now I put it on Riku's armor, but what we'll be eventually customizing is auto haste, ribbon, break HP limit and auto regen on all of the armors. So make sure that you use those 99 dark matters to make ribbon on one of the main armors, and auto haste ribbon armor with 2 free slots. Now we also need clear spheres, which cost a lot of money, and I would recommend buying 99 of those. As you can see there, I had tons of gil. If you don't, check out my video about getting money from the stamina tonics you get from Besaid, and that will give you a quick 3 million gil to start off with and allow you to get these clear spheres. So what we're going to do is, eventually we'll be clearing everything that is not a +4 node off the grid. And like I say, you want to leave Yuna's stats alone until after you have maxed your magic, if you're getting 255 magic, which I'll assume that as part of this you are doing. So now when we've got the strength through that 130 to 150 range, we're ready to take on Juggernaut. Now this is the same tactics that we used as part of the regular walkthrough, and this is what we're aiming to do. We're going to put all of the strength nodes that we'll need to eventually reach 255 strength, and all of the agility nodes that we'll need to eventually reach 170 or 250 agility, which we'll cover a little later, but 170 is the effective max, and 250 agility only affects your starting ticks, so how quickly you get your first move. So basically we want to get enough of these strength spheres that we can put in them in a specific portion of the grid before we start clearing the spheres, and then get a bunch of the agility nodes after that using that higher strength and Tidus's and Wakka's overdrives, which is why it's very important to have their celestials. So hopefully you can sort of see how the plan is starting to form. We're going to start off by using the Victor overdrive mode, and we're going to beat One Eye and we're going to beat Juggernaut, and then we're going to get these triple AP weapons for the Don Tonbru trick, which will be useful later, but we're mainly going to be after those strength spheres. So this is different from the regular process where you would complete the whole grid then get the strength spheres. You want to try and avoid that if at all possible, because if you go over the whole grid and activate those spheres, most of them you're going to have to go back over, which is going to take you more S levels, more time, and the clear spheres, and it's just a waste of time if you're going to be clearing those off anyway. So you can see here that what you want is Kalabog, World Champion and God Hand fully powered up, and then you want all 3 of your main characters to have auto haste. And if you need to know how to get auto haste, you bribe Mac here, watch my separate video about getting the ultimate armors for that. So So you can see here, you want auto haste with Tidus, Waka and Riku, and then enough strength, about 130 to 150 with them, to be able to armor break and beat Juggernaut, and this is what we're going to do. So, to start off, we need to be taking out, like I say, taking out One Eye and taking out Juggernaut, and then that is how we're going to progress from here. So, Juggernaut has a 95% resistance to armor break, which makes him very, very difficult to armor break just with the skill by itself. He can also be very dangerous, but he's also kind of predictable, so you can take him out if you are able to effectively beat his, if you can effectively work out his moveset and how you beat him. So you can see here that with the level of strength that we have, we can easily beat One Eye and have the Victor Overdrive mode. And with the Celestial weapons, that gives you 60% of your overdrive gauge, and as you can see there, he dropped Durandal, so he can drop the triple AP weapons with 2 free slots that he can use for the Don Tombury trick later. But first things first, this is how we want to be ideally starting off and taking out Juggernaut. So you can see there I didn't do very much HP to him there, but if you use Riku's mix and mix 2 regular spheres, so power spheres, mana spheres or anything else, it armor breaks him and then he takes enormous damage. So with auto haste and the agility that you'll probably already have on the grid, you should get enough turns to be able to beat him effectively. So you can see the tactic is always to use Frag Grenade first, and then we have the Victor Overdrive mode with these 3 characters and their Celestial weapons which have triple overdrive on. You can very quickly build the overdrive back up again by fighting Juggernaut and One Eye on alternate battles. Juggernaut's first move will always be charging, so you can see here that after he's been armor broke, we can do enough damage to him to beat him, and he won't get any turns that should kill us, so we should be fine here. So we're able to take him out, and if your attacks or agility aren't quite as high as that, you can always use quick hit and then restore your magic by touching the save point in the monster arena if you need it. So there you can see that even though I haven't raised strength yet, I was easily able to beat Juggernaut, and because of the Victor Overdrive mode and the triple overdrive, all of the characters are at 60% of their overdrive gauge again, so that if we win one more fight they will be back to full overdrive, and then just repeatedly take out Juggernaut using those tactics. So the fight that you want to be doing in between is One Eye. You want to be taking out One Eye, and then that will have the to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, or 2 One Eyes with 1 Blitzball. Aha! By actually beating him, getting the overkill, and he also drops the magic defense spheres that we will need to remodel the grid and raise your magic defense to 255. So you're being as efficient as possible already. We're just alternating One Eye and Juggernaut so that we can get the strength spheres that we want to kick off the process, but also get the magic defense spheres whilst we refill our overdrive by fighting One Eye, whilst we are also farming our triple AP weapons. So this is the perfect start to the process, and this is how we're going to take him out. So like I say there, if you need quick hit, you can get turns a little bit earlier as well and beat Juggernaut. Now, in order to get strength 255 with the +4 strength spheres that are in various parts of the grid already, you need 40 strength spheres. So what we're going to do is we're going to remodel the grid as we go and keep track of how many of these strength spheres we've got already. And then even though we use them, we'll only ever end up putting 40 extra strength spheres, so 40 +4 spheres on the grid. Now you can also use slice and dice and attack reels to make these fights go a little bit quicker if you need, and save yourself some time that way. So yeah, +40 strength is what we need, and what the way that I found that is best to do this, and what I'm recommending, is that you get all 3 characters to a very specific part of the grid where you only need a couple of level 4 key spheres to get a lot of empty nodes, and you can put the strength there. Now the point of doing that is so that even after we later start to clear +1, +2, +3 spheres off the grid, including strength, we'll leave all of the +4 spheres that are already inherently there on the grid, and with these +4 40 strength spheres that we're going to put into empty nodes, we'll have 255 strength even after we've cleared off all the 1, 2s and 3s, and that will mean that we always have that 255 strength. So this is where you want to start on the grid, this specific node. You want to clear out the lower nodes that are there, get all 3 characters to that node as you can see, and then start with the strength spheres, and we're going to move up to auto life, which is just to the top right of where Riku is there. So as we go through, you're going to activate the no blaze as well, which can be useful for Juggernaut, as I'll show in just a minute. And we're going to fill up this whole section of the grid. You can see the concentric circles just to the top right going to auto life, and we're going to fill this whole area of the grid with +4 strength. And once we've got that strength locked in, we never have to worry about not being able to defeat the specific enemies that we need to be able to beat. So you can see here that it just gets easier and easier as you go, because we're activating those strength spheres as we get them and moving around this area of the grid, adding these in. We'll also get no blaze, so that if Juggernaut ever ambushes us, he will charge on his first turn, and then even though he's ambushed us and we'll get his second turn quicker, no blaze will stop his attack salvo from dealing any damage, and so we'll easily have time to kill him. So you can see here that the attacks end up doing massive damage. No blaze will stop him from being able to kill you even if he ambushes you, and then you just take out Juggernaut on one eye until you've got these 40 strength spheres and all of your triple AP weapons for your main characters. So this is the key thing here, get those 40 strength spheres and just keep track of how many you're putting on the grid. Now in a minute I'm just going to show you the grid after it's first remodeled with these 40 strength spheres. See here that we've filled up the circles at the top going towards auto life and filled those in there, and then we've continued to fill in these areas of the grid, so all of your strength is concentrated in one area, and we haven't wiped out any nodes that Una has actually activated yet, and already we have high enough strength so that we can take out everything else. So this is really key, I can't stress it enough. We need to use armor break with Riku's frag grenade to be able to beat Juggernaut without wiping out too much of your other stats first, and then we've always got that strength in place. Now after that, we will be fighting Fenrir for agility spheres. Now we need 21 agility spheres for 170 agility, or if you want to go for 250, which only affects the first turn, but it's what I'll be doing just to have technically perfect stats, you'll need 42 agility spheres. Now Fenrir is extremely difficult to hit, but if you can kill him with Blitz Ace and with attack reels, then you can just alternate those two overdrives and Blitz Ace, as long as you hit the last attack with your very high strength, will take off all of Fenrir's 800k health. And obviously attack reels will as well, because that's 12 hits of 100,000. So what you can do there is, you can just alternate with Tidus and Waka's overdrives and just take him out. So you see there, Tidus went last time and he's already back up to 60%, but Waka has full overdrive. So Waka can use his overdrive, kill Fenrir, and he will go to 60% of his gauge, but Tidus will be full, and then Tidus can use Blitz Ace and just alternate between them to get the overkill on Fenrir and just get those agility spheres that we need. So I'll put the specifics of how many spheres you need in the description, or in a link to the description of this process that I'm going through, just so you can keep track on there. The other way you can do it is you can, if you find it difficult to time either attack reels or particularly Blitz Ace, because it's quite a small window to hit that last attack, then you can just do the same thing we did with Juggernaut, alternate fighting One Eye and Fenrir, so that Waka's attack reels is always full, and you can get your comfortable timing for attack reels, because you're going to need that anyway. Find a timing that you can comfortably get attack reels 12 hits down, and just get that as muscle memory or timing so that you can do that every time. So again, you can see here, this is taking out Fenrir and everybody's gauge is full because we fought One Eye in between. Now another thing you can try with Fenrir if you want, but it's a little bit more difficult, is you can try and mix 2 healing springs with Riku's mix, and that will give you Ultra No All, which has 5 times aim applied as well, and that will sometimes let you be able to hit Fenrir even though your accuracy and luck aren't anywhere near as high as his, and that will mean that if you were to miss the finisher on Blitz Ace, you should be able to get another hit in on Fenrir and actually be able to kill him anyway, because Ultra Roll will mean that you can hit him. But to keep things simple, if you just want to, you can just do Fenrir with attack reels, then fight One Eye to refill Waka's gauge, then fight Fenrir again. So you see here, this is missing the last hit of Blitz Ace. Because I was able to get that other hit in, it still overkills him anyway. So I hope that made sense. Basically, what we're saying is that we want to get to that specific area of the grid, and then we want to fill in the strength nodes, 40 strength nodes, and that includes the ones from lightning dodging as well. And then fill in this area of the grid with agility, so you get the relevant number of agility nodes and then fill those in as well. So this is the first part of the stat maxing process, so before we've even wiped anything out or needed to use the Don Tombury trick very often or anything like that, we've already got enough agility and strength, and those are the key things. As long as you have those agility and strength nodes in place before you start messing about and wiping things off the grid, that will always be enough to build up your other stats, because your agility and strength with that auto haste will mean that you're able to take out Tankit and all of the other enemies that you need to get the other +4 spheres. So we're doing things in a very specific order, but I hope that made sense so far. We're just going to be getting those strength nodes, beating Juggernaut, and then beating Fenrir, so that we can begin our journey of clearing out the grid whilst retaining that maximum strength and agility. So I'll put a link in the description with a quick description of it written down or posted as well. And please like and subscribe for the rest of the guide.